Hello, everyone. Merry Christmas. I hope you're enjoying a wonderful week with your family, whether that be in person or over Zoom or over the phone. I hope that you have felt joy and peace and hope and love, all of the things that we've talked about this past month together. This week, for our Christmas story share, we are going to be hearing from our very own Monica Guzman, and she's going to be reading Too Many Tamales by Gary Soto. Enjoy!
Hola y Feliz Navidad. Hello and Merry Christmas. My name is Monica Estrada Guzman. I am the Program Director at Nido de Esperanza, and today I get to share with you one of our favorite selections for the holidays. It is called Too Many Tamales, written by Gary Soto and illustrated by Ed Martinez. How many of you have had tamales? Let's see. Are we ready to begin? Snow drifted through the streets, and now it was dusk. Christmas trees glitter in the window. Maria moved her nose off the glass. It came back to the counter. She was acting grown up now, helping her mother make tamales. Their hands were sticky with masa. That's very good, her mother said. Maria happily kneaded the masa. She felt grown up, wearing her mother's apron. Her mom had even let her wear lipstick and perfume. If only I could wear Mom's ring, she thought to herself. Maria's mother had placed her diamond ring on the kitchen counter. Maria loved that ring. She loved how it sparkled like their Christmas tree lights. When her mother left the kitchen to answer the telephone, Maria couldn't help herself. She wiped her hands on the apron and looked back to the door. What is Maria up to? I'll wear the ring for just a minute, she said to herself. The ring sparkled on her thumb. Maria returned to kneading the masa, her hands pumping up and down. On her thumb, the ring disappeared, then reappeared in the sticky glob of dough. Her mother returned and took the bowl from her. Get your father for this part, she said. Then the three of them began to spread masa onto the corn husk. Maria's father helped by plopping a spoonful of meat in the center and folding the husk. Then he placed them in a large pot on the stove. They had 24 tamales as the windows grew white with delicious smelling curls of steam. I could smell the tamales now. A few hours later, the family came over with armfuls of bright presents. Her grandparents, her uncles and aunt, her cousin Dolores, Teresa, and Danny. Maria kissed everyone hello. Then she grabbed Dolores by the arm and took her upstairs to play with the other cousins tagging along after them. They cut out pictures from the newspapers of toys they were hoping were wrapped and sitting underneath the Christmas tree. As Maria was snipping out a picture of a pearl necklace, a shock spread through her body. The ring, she cried. Everyone stared at her. What ring? Asked Dolores. Without answering, Maria ran to the kitchen. Ooh. the steaming tamales laid piled on a platter. The ring is inside one of the tamales, she thought to herself. It must have come off when I was kneading the masa. Dolores, Teresa, and Danny skid into the kitchen behind her. Help me, cried Maria. They looked at each other. Danny piped up first. What do you want us to do? Eat them, she said. If you bite something hard, tell me. The four of them started eating. They ripped up the husk and bit into them. The first one was good. The second one was pretty good. But the third tamal, they were tired of the taste. Keep eating, scolded Maria. Corn husk littered the floor. Their stomachs were stretched till they hurt. But the cousins kept eating until one tamal remained on the plate. Whew. This must be it, she said. The ring must be in that one. We'll each take a bite. You first, Danny. Danny was the youngest, so he didn't argue. He took a bite and nothing. Dolores took a bite. Nothing. Teresa took a bite. Still nothing. It was Maria's turn. She took a deep breath and slowly, gently bit into the last mouthful of tamal. Nothing. Didn't any of you bite something hard? Maria asked. Danny frowned. I think I swallowed something hard, he said. Swallowed it? Maria cried, her eyes big with worry. She looked inside his mouth. Teresa said, I didn't bite into anything hard, but I think I'm sick. She held her stomach with both hands. Maria didn't dare look into Teresa's mouth. She wanted to throw herself onto the floor and cry. The ring was nowhere. Was it in her cousin's throat? Or even worse, his belly? How in the world could she tell her mother? But I have to do it, she thought. She could feel tears pressing to get out as she walked into the living room where the grown-ups sat talking. They chattered so loudly that Maria didn't know how to interrupt. Finally, she tugged on her mother's sleeve. What's the matter? Her mother asked. She took Maria's hand. I did something wrong, Maria sobbed. What? Her mother asked. Maria thought about the beautiful ring that was now sitting inside Danny's belly and got ready to confess. Then she gasped. The ring was on her mother's finger, bright as ever. The ring! Maria nearly screamed. Maria's mother scraped off a flake of dry masa. You were playing with it, she said, smiling gently. I wanted to wear it, Maria said, looking down at the rug. Then she told them all about how they'd eaten the tamales. Her mother moved the ring a little on her finger. It winked a silvery light. Maria looked up and Aunt Rosa winked at her too. Well, it looks like we have to cook up another batch of tamales, Rosa said cheerfully. Thank goodness for tias, for aunts. Maria held her stomach as everyone filed into the kitchen, joking and laughing. At first, she still felt like crying. as she kneaded a great bowl of masa next to Aunt Rosa. She pumped her hands up and down. A leftover tear fell from her eyelashes, into the bowls for just a second, rested on her finger, sparkling like a jewel. Then Rosa nudged her with the elbow and said, "Hey, Nina, it's not so sad. Everyone knows that the second batch of tamales always tastes better than the first, right?" When Dolores, Teresa, and Danny heard that from the other side of the room, they let out a groan. Oy, 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 the size of 24 tamales. Uh-oh. Maria couldn't help herself. She laughed, and then pretty soon everyone else was laughing, including her mother. And when Maria put her hands back into the bowl of masa, the leftover tear was gone. This was Too Many Tamales by Gary Soto. And now I get to share a little bit about my culture. I grew up in Guatemala and came to the U.S. at the age of 7. And one of the things that my mom wanted to do was to keep our traditions. It was very important for me to grow up learning about my culture, embracing my culture, knowing my language, the flavors, the sounds that makes Guatemala so unique. And one of those is that also, just like Maria, for Christmas in Guatemala, we make tamales. Only that our tamales are a little bit different, and I'll show you in a minute. Our Christmas tradition is that our family gathers on Christmas Eve on the 24th. We gather to have a light dinner around 6 p.m. and then just hang out, laughing or playing, joking. Oftentimes my cousins and I will go to the other room, just like Maria and her cousins, and look through magazines or just daydream, and just hoping for it to be midnight. Because in our tradition, we get to open our presents at midnight. But before we do that, when the clock strikes 12, our family pauses what they're doing. We each gather in the living room. We find our parents. We give each other hugs and kisses and wish blessings upon one another and say Feliz Navidad, Merry Christmas. And then our family proceeds to the table and we sit down and have supper at midnight. And our supper is, can you guess? A Guatemalan tamal. So in the story, we saw that they use corn husk and masa. We use masa too, but instead of husk, we use banana leaves. It's what we use to wrap the tamales in. We have masa, we have a salsa, or we call it a recado. And the recado is made with roasted tomatoes, pumpkin seeds, roasted chiles, like 2 different types of chiles. Also, oh my goodness, I'm going blank. Sesame seeds and other little flavors. Depending where you are, you would add cinnamon or little special touches from the region from Guatemala in which you're from. This one is from the coastal area, a town called Masate. And these tamales were made by one of my mom's friends. Usually we go to her house and we help her make them. Tamales are a labor of love. I get the opportunity, just like Maria, to help with the dough. The only thing is that we cook our dough prior to putting the tamal together. And if you guys have ever made Play-Doh, and as the Play-Doh starts getting solid and together, it gets really hard. So can you imagine a big pot of tamale masa that you're cooking? And you have to be very careful, because if it splatters on you, it can burn you. And let me tell you, I learned the hard way my first time I made tamales. Then when the masa is cooked and cool, you add the recado, the sauce, and then these are from Masate, so they're a little unique because they have prunes, they have raisins, capers, bell peppers, red and green, and you can make them out of chicken or pork. Then you close everything up, you wrap it up like a little present, and then just like Maria's dad did, you steam them in a pot. and then they're ready to eat. It is one of our favorite traditions and one that helps me feel connected to my culture, to my cultura, to my home, to my country, to Guatemala, and the flavors and the smells that make Guatemalan cuisine and our traditions so special and dear. So I hope you guys enjoyed. I wish you guys a Feliz Navidad, and hope to learn about your Christmas traditions or your new traditions this year. Thank you. Gracias y adiós.
Thank you, Monica, for sharing both that story and a little bit about the Guatemalan culture and those delicious tamales. As I hear this story, it reminds me and reminds us so much of the depth of tradition that we feel during this season, during the holiday season, during Christmas. There's things that we do every year. Maybe you make cookies with your family every year at a certain time on a certain day. Maybe you have certain people over. I also grew up in near the Mexican border, and so I grew up making tamales as well. I myself do not have Latin American heritage in my family, but our close family friends were from Mexico, so we would go over on Christmas Eve and spend many, many hours making those tamales. And Monica is right. They are a labor of love. And I love that phrase, labor of love. I think that really brings us back to the heart of why we do traditions, why we hold them so sacred and so special. So this year, things look different. I'm sure that there are traditions that you are not getting to do this year. I myself am not getting to be with my family this year, and that's been really hard. But it brings me back to Jesus. And when we look at the story of Jesus, the cool thing is Jesus came into the world to be with us, both to fulfill old tradition, but also to create new ones. Depending on what gospel you read, in Matthew, Jesus is presented as this fulfillment of tradition and expectation and things that you can trace back all these years. And then in other gospels that you read, the focus is more on Jesus breaking old traditions and creating new space, new traditions. And both are equally special and equally sacred. So this year, this coming year, and this week of Christmas and into New Year, let's practice some labors of love, both old and new. And remember that Jesus is in that. Jesus is in the old traditions. Jesus is in the new traditions that you're getting to create this year. And Jesus is in that space where you might be kind of sad about not getting to do things that you look forward to every year. But Jesus is also in that space, beckoning you in, saying, yes, there's new traditions to be made, and they're just as special. So thank you again, Monica, for reminding us of that. So go have a wonderful, wonderful Christmas. And remember that Jesus is a labor of love for us. And we should turn and do labors of love for one another, for family and for friends the whole year long. So stay warm, stay safe, and I'll see you next week. Merry Christmas.